Hi everybody. Some of my favorite beat slicer values I have mapped to individual keys on my Oxygen 49 keyboard. A couple of reasons for that. It's a lot easier for me to just grab a key and push it and know exactly what that value is going to do at that time. Of course, playing with your effects, you can learn the same thing, but also it's a lot easier with the slicer because I have two knobs and buttons and things that I would have to move to get these particular values that I like, to map them to a button where I can just hit one button. I hit a consecutive button that'll also slice up that sample differently, and then a third button kind of to finish it off. Now, my three favorites, I have more mapped, and I did play more in the little demo at the beginning. But my three favorites, I am going to show you the values for those. How to map, hopefully you've learned that from some other videos, because I'm not going to go over every exact little detail of how to map this. But for you beginners, I will pretty much cover everything, most of it anyway. For you guys, you're going to want to map this all to one button. I happen to have it mapped to the key B5 on my keyboard here. Now, what we have mapped all to the same button, so if you use the learn function here, it's just you're going to hit the same button over and over, is we're going to turn the effect on in Effects Unit 2. That's the one I'm using. You can use another effect unit. You don't have to worry about my modifier 1 here. That's just particular to my mapping. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn the effect on, and I have that in button and in the hold mode, so I have to actually hold the key down for it to take effect. Also, you're going to want to have a button to turn your effect unit 2 on in the mixer. Now, effect select, we want it to be button direct, and we're going to select the beat slicer, of course. That's the effect we're playing with. And then effects unit 2 also, that's the one I'm using. Now, effect button 1, I've got set at 0, and also in effects unit 2. Effects button 2, I've got set to a value of 1 in the beat slicer. That's going to turn on the little 2-bar button. That means you're going to sample actual 8 counts or 2 bars of the song. And dry wet's going to be at 100, or 1 rather, for all these. It's going to be all the way on. Now, effect parameter 1 I've got at 0. Effect parameter 2 is at 0.83. And effect parameter 3 is at 0.5. Okay? Now, down here is where I've turned it on in the mixer. And I did it for device target because I also have buttons where I select whatever deck I want. Now, however you want that to function, you would have to select device target or whichever deck you wanted it to affect. Now, I think further down I probably just turned it on in the mixer. Nope, I'm using the S4 software, so here I also had to turn on the FX panel mode to advanced. Okay, now I will show you what this does. Hang on just a minute, and we'll do a little loop of that. All right, hang on. Alright, here's the second mapping, or the second parameters for the effect for the next button that I like to use. And this one's a little glitchy sounding. I kind of like it right. Don't want to play it very long, but it's kind of fun for a little bit. Of course, effect select, we're going back to beat slicer here. I'm using the same effects deck, and I've got button direct. Now an effect on again, and we want that in button hold. Effect button 1, we've got it 0. Effect button 2, we've got set at 1. Now, dry wet's always at 1. And effect parameter 1, I've got set at 0 here. Effect parameter 2, I've got set at 1. And effect parameter 3 at 1. Make sure, oops, sorry. Pull back up here and make sure that's everything we needed. Yep, and the same with the effects unit on in the FX panel mode. And we'll play that one for you. Hang on just a moment. Alright, the final set of values I'm going to show you, which kind of finishes off something. You can also just play it here and there to kind of throw in a little fill. And same settings here, effect select, button direct, beat slicer, effect on, effect unit 2, effect button 1, hold, effect button 2, I've gotten button direct and set at 0, and dry wet's at 1, of course, effect parameter 1 at 0, effect parameter 2 at 0.5, and effect parameter 3 at 0.75. And of course the other few things we have to add on like we did on the other ones. Alright, and I'll show you how this works, and then right after that I'll kind of run all 3 in a row to show you how it works out. Now I do have other buttons mapped directly to slicer values. One of those is a slicer sample key, and what that does is I've just put all the effects at 0, or all the knobs at 0, and all the buttons except for the 2 bar that is on. Everything else is off. And when you hit the key, it turns on and it samples a 2 bar loop. Then you can play with the knobs of the Beatslicer to kind of play with that loop a bit. That's a fun one to have mapped too. You can also just do it by hitting record or hitting the on button and setting all the knobs at 0. I like to have things like that right at my fingertips. Anyway, here it is. Hey Internet, not really used to talking to the camera. I usually don't put it in my videos, but I thought, well, hey, maybe you want to see who's behind the camera. I hope you enjoyed this. I've seen a few times where newer folks say the Beatslicer doesn't do anything good for them. They can't figure it out. On all effects, really, if you just take a few hours even and get a song and just play with that effect, maybe just on a drum loop or just on the vocals, see where it works best, see what works best, see what the knobs and buttons and different things do. You'll have a much better understanding just playing with that effect for a good amount of time until you figure everything out, what it does and how it affects it. But anyway, hopefully I have another video out soon on, I think, just some instant delays. It's not really a super button. It's just like simple like this where you map it to a button. But I find a few of them very useful for transitioning between songs just with the touch of a button. It makes it so much easier. And I'll have those out soon. So hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.